live from the UK. Peter, Will, the Messers in Chief, how are we all doing? We've managed to get through a little bit of technical problems over here, but we have managed to get going. How are you all doing?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Another week in the NFL. The stories are starting to show themselves through. Got some interesting news in general coming up. So yeah, no, it'll be good to sort of go over it.
And Peter, how are we doing?
I'm okay. Right now I'm in a confused state as a Cardinals fan, but we'll get into that.
We will have a little segment of the Cardinals right at the end of the show, so don't hold up and be ready for that to come. So, first of all, we will be talking about the news, and in particular, the injury news across the league, because there are many players getting injured now. So, first of all, unfortunately, Nick Chubb is looking like he is going to be out for the season. Now, this isn't the first time that Nick Chubb has had a major knee injury to his left knee. If anybody has seen the play, please don't share it, actually, because it's horrible.
Yep.
It is a horrible bend of his knee, and exacerbated particularly by the way that Minka Fitzpatrick hits him when he is pretty much already being tackled, and he is pretty much stopped. But aside from us, obviously, our thoughts are with Nick Chubb and hoping that he has a speedy recovery, hoping he is able to play the game again, because obviously having so many knee injuries can have an impact. How do you boys think this is going to impact the Cleveland Browns themselves?
Yeah, so sort of going back, Nick Chubb is obviously like a real diamond character. He's worked hard his whole career. When it was time to pay running backs, the Cleveland Browns didn't really hesitate. He's always had his head in the books. He's a hard worker, and it's going to be tough because there aren't a lot of backs like him with his sort of resilience running style. He's an old school back, and there aren't a lot of those in the NFL right now. It's going to be hard for Cleveland to try and find a piece. But one thing I'll say is that I think he can recover from this, but based on the nature of the injury, I don't think he'll be the same back again. This has happened to him already. He's had to overcome an injury just as bad as this, if not worse.
And
coming
the
out of
rumors,
Georgia.
so the rumors are this could be another one of those multiple ligament injuries. It's not going to be like just an ACL or an LCL or an MCL. It's going to be multiple. It looked like it was something that could hit more
and it's
than
on
one
the same
ligament.
leg. I believe it's the same leg, if I'm not mistaken.
So that is my understanding. It is on the same leg
so
that he injured himself.
When this happens, it's not just the healing of the injury, because that will happen. He'll be able to live a normal life, but unfortunately, for him to play at the NFL at the highest level, I personally think, I love Nick Chubb. I think he's great. I'd love for him to come back, but I do think this will kind of like be an Alex Smith situation, in that he'll come back to the field, he'll play a few games, but with an injury like this, especially it being the same knee, it's very hard to sort of carry on with your career at the level he needs to be.
The way that I see it is that, so I'm going to draw a parallel to football. Alan Shearer, first cruciate injury, came back, and he had the same level of speed. Like, this was before a lot of people who knew how, like, we were like 6 or 7 at the time. And then he had another cruciate injury a couple of years later. And that was the one that made him lose a yard of pace. Now, if Nick Chubb loses a yard of pace, that makes him a completely different back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Shearer still went on to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, like, but in the NFL, being able to hit the hole with speed, which Chubb has speed and he has power, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, but what essentially he becomes more of a power back than
More
if he
Zeke-like?
loses the speed, he has to rely on his power, right? So, like you said, he's an old school back. So Nick Chubb had the speed, but he also had power when he plays, and he
Mhm.
might have to resort to using mostly of his power. He becomes the sort of a battering ram type of running back, whereby
Which
he keeps
also
chugging and getting
Brings more potential
dodgy.
for
might
injury.
lead to more injuries. This isn't just about him coming
No, but
back, but
yeah, but
we
hold
could.
on.
His
But
legs
here's
are.
the thing,
It's not
though.
as though they're going to stop tackling him. Like, this is the thing. He's got to rehab this injury.
Okay, so here's the
He's
thing.
got to
I
have the
give, I
will to
give.
get through
Obviously,
all of
we
that.
don't. One thing I will temper all of this conversation with: we still don't know the full extent of the injury.
Mm.
The information hasn't been
Exactly.
released, so it's a
So
little bit
for
early
me,
to speculate. But we know that he's going to be out for the season. So from the Browns' perspective, what do they need to do now? Because they're happy with their backup running back. He almost had a house call yesterday in the game. Now, the understanding is Kareem Hunt is again in conversation. He's visiting the team. Do you think they're gonna? Do you think that's most likely going to be the case, that they're going to go after Kareem Hunt because he knows the offense?
He knows the offense. They're kind of similar backs in terms of build, size. So ideally, if you lose your running back, you want to get a body type. You want to get a running style that's similar. So you wouldn't try and get like a pure speed back or a slasher. You want to get someone that can almost run like Nick Chubb or emulate that running style to some degree. So I think that's what they're going to do. You know, where there's
Now,
smoke, there's fire. So
now, Peter, the other rumor is that potentially they could trade for Cam Akers, because Cam Akers was a healthy scratch on the weekend. What do you think of that?
yeah, but at the same time, I just feel like Cam Akers, when he returned from he's lost something. He's not a Cam Akers when he was on the verge of really breaking out. Because remember, he had that season and he had the injury, and then since then he hasn't been the same. And kind of like that forced the Rams to go out and get a different back in Karen Williams. Now, Cam Akers can come in and do a serviceable job with the Cleveland
With that
Browns. I don't
O-line?
think he would
With that Cleveland Browns O-line, which is brilliant for run blocking, in my
he
opinion.
would give him something, but he can't do what Nick Chubb was gonna give him. He can be serviceable. Now, if they give the backup a chance and maybe go after Kareem Hunt, that gives them a bit more of a chance. Another running back that they could go after, and I'll implore them to go after. I don't know, although I don't know how much their Falcons be willing to give him up, is Nick Algieri, who had a very
Algier,
good,
yeah.
I think, season last year before the Bijan Robinson.
You mean Tyler Algier?
So that's also another option they could go after.
It does look like though.
Algier,
Yeah, it does look like though. Tyler Algier, like they're happy with that like 2-back situation that they've got there. So I probably wouldn't expect that to happen.
yeah, but then
if
someone's willing to give you,
they're gonna ask for a bit.
true. I think most likely they'll stick. I think what the Browns most likely would do is to try out the backup running back for the next game or the next 2 games, see where they are, and then maybe have Kareem Hunt on standby. I think you see what your backup running back can do, and maybe bring in Kareem Hunt and have those two.
I think Kareem Hunt probably signs. I think Kareem Hunt probably signs this week. Whether or not he's gonna have a limited probably amount of touches this weekend, and the backup becomes the main back, and then potentially Kareem Hunt to potentially take over, or it could be a committee between the two of them and the third running back for week 4. Yeah, it's a difficult situation, obviously, for the Browns, and it's a very unfortunate situation, but there are so many injuries going around the league at the moment.
Yeah.
And another one is for another losing team on the weekend. CJ Gardner-Johnson has a torn pectoral muscle and is potentially out for the season. Now, that is going to have massive implications for the Detroit secondary.
Huge. Absolutely huge. The pectoral.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, the pectoral. The main reason is that you need it to tackle. You're not going to be able to wrap people up. People will be able to sort of break out of that tackle. So it's not necessarily the fact that he can't move around. He can, absolutely, but it sort of jeopardizes your ability to tackle ball carriers. So yeah, no, I pretty much expecting this to be season ending. And yeah, just like you said, Dilly, it's huge. Chauncey Gardner had his stint with my Eagles. He's very talented. And I no doubt think that he is a cornerstone of that Detroit defense. So it's a huge loss for them. He can cover up a lot of issues on the tail end of your defense. And trust me, as an Eagles fan, I know this firsthand. So
he had a very good week. He had a very good week one against the Chiefs, and it's a real shame that his season potentially isn't now over. Now moving on, Joe Burrow aggravated his calf, and this is the same calf, obviously, that he injured in preseason. Kept him out of training and doing a lot of the preseason work. There's a reason why he's looked so rusty. Now, could this potentially derail, actually, I'm going to get onto that a little bit later, but it's not looking good. No. Because injuries, particularly calf injuries, when you need to push off and when you need to be mobile in the pocket, it doesn't really help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, obviously for the Bengals, he is the hallmark of their team. The aspirations of this team go where Joe Burrow says, and if they're already right behind the start line as the season goes, and in their division, it's really competitive. So you kind of need all the wins you can get, so it's kind of like, it's not a good start for Bengals fan. I think they can weather it through, but when every game is a must-win game and you've got no leeway to sort of drop it, it puts more pressure on the team, the organization, and then you sometimes end up having to play outside of your character, and that's always a recipe for disaster. You have to play to your strengths. So yeah.
But we will get on to a little bit more in depth on the Bengals a little bit later in the next segment, actually. Saquon Barkley sprained his ankle. Now, this could be a problem for the New York Football Giants. Obviously, they had a massive comeback win, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But it's one thing after another for the Giants, right?
Yep.
They had the first half of this game, they didn't score a single point. So they went through 6 quarters of not scoring a single point to start the season. And then Saquon gets injured in the game. It's getting to this point where when these running backs don't get paid and then they get injured.
Yep.
Early on in the season, it's really hurting them at the moment.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, you can definitely tell all the sort of detractors are there seeing like, you see, we told you so, we could have paid him and then this could have happened. But at the same time, Saquon doesn't, I mean, he's tagged, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't really owe them anything. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Of course, he wants to be back. He wants to be out on the field. But, I don't think he's going to look to sort of rush back. I think he's going to make sure he's 100% before he goes out there. This is almost kind of like him sticking it to the team. potentially as things go forward. You know, and if their record is low
Well,
as
you can't
well,
stick it to the
I don't
team
think
when
he's going to be in a
injured.
rush. I don't think he's going to be in a rush.
Well, but he's not gonna. It's not about. I don't think it's kind of like sticking it to that because he's injured at the moment, and he'd rather not be injured, and kind of like not
But this
play
affects his market, right?
because this
Yeah.
affects his market and his money because he's on a tag. If they choose not to resign him after the tag, he's not gonna get top end money because he's coming off an injury. That's the thing. It takes a team that supremely believes in him to give him the money that he needs. Because at the moment, no team out there would want to give him top of the range market money. I believe he should have gotten a CMC type deal already. But obviously the Giants have other ideas and chose not to pay
But
Saquon.
yeah.
Now, they don't win the game without him. It's just unfortunate that he suffered this ankle sprain that's going to keep him out for a while this season. But it's a tough situation, especially for running backs when they're coming up to
getting paid.
sort of
Getting
like
paid, yeah.
those type of years. I think we're almost reaching a point whereby you know how first round quarterbacks when after their third year in the league, and if they've been able to make Pro Bowls, they've been able to perform at a high level, they seek to get paid. I think running backs might have to go
Well,
that approach.
that's what
if I've had two
that's what
productive years, pay me, otherwise I'm not playing.
that's what Jonathan Taylor's tried to do.
But his
He got
one,
he got
the
injured.
difference
He
is
got
this.
injured in the third year.
Yeah. That's the issue. If he wasn't injured, I think your coach would have had to. They would have paid him. I have a feeling an agreement would have
Because
had to be
there was
made
nothing.
at some point.
Yeah, because there was nothing effectively preventing him from performing at the top level. The injury kind of pretty much messed with the entire thing. All right, Jamal Williams, again, running back injury. Jamal Williams has a hamstring injury, and it looks like it's going to keep him out for a few weeks. This has a major impact on the Saints. Now, their running back situation is not very good until Alvin Kamara comes back. I think they used Tony Jones yesterday. He got a couple of scores, so that was reasonably good. But they're going to have to lean on Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, and the supporting cast there, because they're going to have to pass their way out of the situation, and the defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think Slant Thomas might have to come back again. I think they might have to just slant him as an extension for the running game. If the running game ain't going, you just slant Thomas as an extension to your running game. 5-yard slants, 6-yard slants, and
Flat routes, stick
the funny thing
routes,
about
everything,
the
all of
funny
it.
thing about Michael Thomas is for all that he is, and I'm sure he hasn't played for a while and he's lost some speed. The one route that he constantly wins, it's like ingrained in his memory is slant routes. He will beat you on a slant.
He will beat that press coverage, and he will get that. And if you give him soft coverage, it's just perfect.
He'll eat you all day with slants. So the Saints kind of have an alternative with Michael Thomas there, but talking about all these running back injuries, it's kind of unfortunate that it's happening to really productive backs in the league. That is happening to at the moment.
It's happening to guys who are good. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, really productive backs. And on that note, I'm gonna take a little shot. You will, excuse me. But if you were a GM and I was a running back, I'd never play for your team because you won't pay me.
Yeah, but I think it's fairly obvious.
But that's any
what
team,
my
isn't
Eagles
it?
are doing. Yeah, but my
No, particularly
Eagles
Wolves
right
team.
now,
What
we're
doesn't like
very
paying running backs?
specific.
So
Like,
I won't pay for you.
yeah, Howie basically he will draft you, he'll use you for 3 seasons, 4 seasons, and then you're gone.
No. I'm not talking about how. I'm talking about you as a GM. I will not play for you because I know you ain't gonna pay me.
I used to love the bell cow back, but I'm with Howie Roseman now. You know,
You
there's
see,
other
so
needs on the
I ain't
team.
playing for you because you ain't gonna
Actually,
pay me.
if you look at how the Eagles played this
That's
week,
how we do
DeAndre
it.
Swift,
Yeah, we bring in guys, we draft
but
them.
he looked like he's still on his rookie deal, right? And he looked
Yep.
good.
Yeah, and we're still not going to pay him.
See,
We got Kenneth Gainwell. he's gonna ride it out. I think Kenneth Gainwell is in year 2 now, so we've got another 2 years of his service, and then we're just gonna trade him. You know, DeAndre Swift is not getting paid.
But that's unfair,
us.
you know, because
If he does that, then
listen,
that's disrespectful to Miles Sanders and a
Or
load of
but
other
listen,
backs that have
Or-
been through
well,
if they pay DeAndre
running
Swift.
backs are just like Rich Eisen said, Panthers are people
Now-
too. Running backs are people too.
I know they are.
We deserve to get our
Absolutely.
money.
Absolutely, but it's just not
all
gonna
of
be
the
on my
all of
ego.
this conversation is angering the man in the sky, or not the man in the sky, our hologram of our dear friend Marcus, because he is
The running back
the running back advocate, definitely of our friendship group. Yes. All right. Finally, in this injury segment, Jalen Waddle, Anthony Richardson, Ryan Kelly, Nick Scott, the safety for the Bengals, and Logan Thomas are all in the concussion protocol. That's a significant number of players in 1 week in the concussion protocol. And particularly, I want to talk about Logan Thomas being in it, because that hit from Kareem Jackson was egregious, and he needs to be out of the game. Now, he has 2 weeks in a row where he has illegal hits. What do the league need to do to prevent this from happening? Because that was like full on, like he launched into him.
Yeah. So if this would have been like his first occurrence, you know, you could sort of give him the benefit of the doubt, like, you know, but these players, see, the NFL is dealing with like an era change right now, in that there's a lot of players in the league that have come up a certain way. We're talking 2015, they've been trained a certain way. That's just how they play football, you know, so they've had to relearn how to tackle, they've had to relearn how to disengage. And I think if you watch the college game now, you're seeing it where defenders will tackle someone, wrap up, and before they hit the ground, they just let go completely.
Well,
and
you
they
see
start
that
rolling
you see
away.
that from D linemen at the moment.
You see that from D linemen now, especially in college. So
Well, even in the NFL, they kind of like do this where they
remove their body weight,
remove their body
after
weight.
they've secured it. So this is like a part of the game. It's growing pains, you know. But the fact that we've had back-to-back weeks, I think obviously he needs to be suspended. It sucks really, because most likely he's not intentionally doing this. This is just how he's wired. Because after the hit,
the launch, he can easily get the incompletion without launching to his
he
head.
can easily get it. But you see, as soon as the hit happens, he realizes what he's done. Like you see him go, oh damn, step back, and he's like, wait, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I wanted to do. But the damage is already done. You know, he should have known, like, look, aim for the midsection. But the issue was, it was aimed at the shoulder blades and up top. Just stay away from that area. You know, I mean, taking away from the NFL, in college, we saw a similar hit in Colorado versus Colorado State.
But that wasn't to the head. That wasn't to the head though.
But that had intent.
So that one had intent, but it also was well after the ball had bounced. So the ball was incomplete, and then he went after the guy. Yeah. So that's kind of a separate thing, because that was a target. Like it wasn't considered targeting because he didn't go at the head, but that was a late hit where it was so late that he probably should have been thrown out of the game for it. Now, with regards to Kareem Jackson, I think he's probably going to get at least a 1-game suspension, but maybe a couple games, because you just can't be doing. It's probably going to be one, but you just can't be doing things like that, particularly putting the safety of another player at risk. And that is the one thing that they are trying to get away from in this league. All right, injury section over. And now we will move on to the surprising teams of first couple of weeks. So we're going to go through 3 teams who are 2-0, who none of us expected to be 2-0. Then 3 teams who are 0-2, that we did not expect to be 0-2. So first of all, the Atlanta Falcons are 2-0. Desmond Ridder has his Atlanta Falcons at 2-0. Peter, because Will can't get words in, he's laughing too much. What do you think about this one?
Okay, so my thing is that the Falcons are what I call basically it's fake wins because we all know what's going to happen as the season progresses. This 2-0 impressive start, yet 2-0. You know, the games Reader hasn't really been a great X factor, although the last game his running and his playmaking sort of like helped them get a win over the Packers in a close game. So I give him credit for that. But I call them it's a bit of like a false win in the sense that as the season progresses, I don't think they're gonna win the division because the quarterback play of Reader is not at the level it needs to be to even just to win the division unless unless
there's a collapse from the other teams.
exactly, unless they get lucky breaks, that kind of thing. Because I still don't trust the Falcons' defense when they come up against the top teams or they come against teams with winning records.
They seem to turn up this week. I have to admit.
That's why I said I give credit to Reader for this week. Like he played really well. But
I meant from a defensive side of the ball. They kept Green Bay to 140 yards passing, right?
It's Jordan Love.
Jordan Love had a very good game. Okay, the week before against the Bears.
It was the Bears.
Yep, I tempered that with the Bears, but the Falcons seem to manage to be better this week in offensively and defensively because offensively last week Drake London didn't do anything, right? Had one target, right? They got him going. They managed to get Bijan. Bijan still he looks great for a rookie running back.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he's a lot of caveat. He's my ball of the week because this victory was predicated on Bijan. Bijan was absolutely amazing in this game, both running and receiving. His dual playmaking ability, and that was the key to the Falcons winning this game. Because Reader played well as well, but to me, I think Bijan was the X factor with what he was able to do in the ground game, and how he was making explosive plays was a really big factor. Drake London got going. The thing is, I know they're run first team, but I would like to see them utilize a bit more of their big targets. You know,
Kyle Pitts in particular.
Yeah,
exactly. So if you guys got a glimpse of the Cardinals Giants game, most of the Cardinals passing went to the tight ends. They were making big plays, and those are like 6'5", 6'4" guys. And the Falcons have 3 of those. They have 2 of those.
Matt Collins.
Pitts and Reader. Matt Collins is also huge. So when you run the ball, the play action should be there. And Reader, I expect Reader if Reader wants to be the Falcons starting quarterback, I need a better performance of averaging 2 touchdowns per game from here on out, making use of these targets. So we'll see because the real test begins when they start playing a team that's over the 500 as the season progresses. But impressive fake start. I always say that it takes the first 4 weeks to really know who are the major players of the league and who are not.
And moving on to the next team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2-0 with Baker Mayfield at the helm.
With Baker
Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was 26 for 34, 317 yards, 1 touchdown, quarterback rating of 114.5. Rashad White looks capable in the backfield, 17 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans was the star of the game. 6 catches, 171 yards and a touchdown, including a 70-yard reception where he ran out of gas and could not last until the end.
Yeah.
Now, is this a flash in the pan? Is this, it's the Bears? Or can Tampa, because they've got good defensive players, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Could this be the start of something better for them?
Yeah, I think it's the Bears. I think it's the Bears. But I will say it's it's refreshing to see this type of offense for Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield has sort of been put through the ringer. And it's good that Tampa Bay obviously brought him in, and they've shown confidence in his ability, and they've given him the reins, and I think he's sort of rewarding them for that. But I'd say it's a bit too early to sort of get too excited. They haven't had like a true test so far, but they do have a good defense. Their defense can play. It's if they can sort of sustain this performance throughout the whole season. That's the main question here. They've got all the pieces they need in terms of skill positions.
They had 6 sacks in this game.
Yeah, their defense can play.
The defense is good. I mean, like a lot of people underrate Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is one of the top 5 defensive coordinators in this league.
So when you consider it,
defense.
all Baker's got to do is have mistake-free football on the other side.
Yeah. Literally, because the defense will keep the games close. Now, at the beginning of the season, I didn't really give Tampa a bit of a chance, but based on their first 2 games, especially them being able to beat Minnesota, shows that they could potentially win this division. I think it will come down to how they play when they play the Saints and the Falcons. I think they'll beat the Falcons
now
later down the year.
Could this be the perfect situation for Baker, though? Goes into a place where they've got 2 stud wide receivers, complete studs, Mike Evans and Godwin.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Cade Otton, who's coming in. He's a young tight end who seems to be performing better and better. Like, he had 6 catches on 6 targets for 41 yards. You've got a good young running back in Rashad White. You've got Chase Edmonds, who's obviously that pass catching back that you tend to use a little bit more.
You've got
the defense as well. So this is probably his best opportunity to be a top level, like a good level, not a top level, but a good level starter in this league. So let's see how he does come in the next few weeks. And finally, Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders are 2-0. Now, they went into Mile High this week and beat Russell Wilson and the Broncos. Now,
it's definitely just one of those games. I think this is obviously not a good look for Denver. This is one of those teams that is unexpectedly in the situation they're at. I think a lot of people thought they'd at least have 1 win in the bag here. But this isn't the old Washington. It's a new regime over there. That being said, Russell Wilson didn't actually play. He didn't play bad.
He was 8. He was okay. He was 8. So he was 18 for 18 for 32.
Yeah.
So but 3 touchdowns, sacked 7 times.
Yep.
This is the big problem.
I think at this point, Russ is who he is in terms of sack numbers. Because some of those sacks he kind of walked into them a little bit, and I think that's the caveat. I think that's the biggest thing that Sean Payton will try to correct throughout the course of the season. It's like, how do I get this Russell to avoid walking into sacks? Because he's always been a high sack guy, but still being highly productive despite his high sack numbers. But I think this victory in terms of Commanders being 2-0, I get that, but it's not vindication for you, Will, in terms of Sam Howell, because this victory that they got over the Broncos was largely down to the Broncos' crappy defense with Vance Joseph as their defensive coordinator. Because with the pieces Denver has on defense, they shouldn't be giving up 35 points to the Washington Commanders like that. Their defense was very disappointing in this game. And Vance Joseph needs to figure something out quickly, because Sean Payton, when he finds out that my DC is costing me games, he gonna fire him mid-season. And
Yep.
it's a bold claim, but Sean Payton would do it.
No, Sean Payton will. He does not mix his words. Like I said, his main goal is to win. This is his team now, and he's going to build around it. So he's not going to look to mess around. That being said, Pete, you know, somehow, don't get me wrong, he didn't take over the game, but he didn't get 19, 2 touchdowns, 27 for 36, 299
39,
yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not bad for his second game as a starter. in the
This
NFL.
game was won, but this one game was won on the back of Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
18 for 87 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And 2 receptions for 42 yards. He
Yeah.
spread the ball around. If you look at Sam Howell, he spread the ball around in this one. So you look at the receivers. Brian Robinson, 2 for 42. Curtis Samuel, 3 for 19. Antonio Gibson, 3 for 44. Scary Terry,
Just
5 for 54. John Bates, De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas, obviously got hit out of the game. Cole Turner.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of people he found in this game.
Yeah, no, I
he was
think that's a
fine,
result.
guy.
I think that's a result of when you're not the starter, you're the backup. You don't have any favorites. You know, your main goal is to find the open guy, and that's that. That's how he's been developed in the league up until now. So I think this is just testimony. I mean, if you remember Pat Mahomes when he first came out, he didn't have favorites. You know, he soon got his favorites, but
Kelsey.
after he took the reins over from
Yeah, but
Yeah.
over the course of but in his first season, over the course of the season, at the beginning, he didn't have favorites.
didn't have
But
favorites.
midway through the season, he realized that I
These
gotta
are my
go to
go-to
Kelsey because
guys.
he's always open.
Exactly, these are my
And
go-to
yeah.
guys. So I'd say the same thing. It'll almost be like the same arc with Howell in that. Obviously, early on, remember this is only his second start ever. He's just gonna go to the open man, but after a while, he might be like, it's gonna go to Terry. You know, it's gonna go to Gibson. You know, I trust those guys.
Although Antonio Gibson
I
isn't
still
on the field all
maintain-
the time, that's the thing.
Yeah,
I
which
still
makes it hard to
maintain-
defend if you're a defense, because he's going to keep you honest. He's not going to try and force it to someone just because he's their marquee player. He's going to find the open player. So if you're playing him on defense, you have to actually make sure everyone's covered or
Peter,
accounted
you were
for.
saying?
I was saying that, what do you call it? Vance Joseph cost them this game because the Broncos probably shouldn't have lost this game.
That is probably the case, and I'm sure we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Broncos in the coming weeks. All right. The 0-2 teams. First of all, the LA Chargers. I'm going to propose this. How can they rectify what is going wrong? Because if I read out the stats from this game, Herbert, 27 for 41, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. The defense sacked Tannehill 5 times, and they held Derrick Henry to 80 yards on 25 carries. When you do that to the Tennessee Titans and still lose, what do you need to do? Because you can't be losing a game when every statistical thing is saying you've had a good game, but you're losing again. It's unacceptable.
Coaching.
Yep.
For me, I think it's coaching and a particular situational awareness. Because I think there are some points in a game whereby if you have the momentum, you can't afford 3 and outs at certain points in the game, despite your statistical dominance. There are certain points in the game that you have to find a way to get 3 points on a drive. You can't go on certain drives and get all the yardage and just get stopped and you punt the
And there are times
opposition.
there are times that you don't give up 3 points like JC Jackson did last week.
Exactly.
The week before,
So I think it's situational awareness, and I think the Chargers head coach needs to maybe put more situational awareness training for the guys in training, as in like let them be aware that in certain situations in the game we have to maintain our momentum. We have to not give up 3 points easy, because the Titans are one of those teams whereby they win when you don't expect them to win. They are one of those find a way to win type of teams, whereby the statistics might not show,
They
but
are
it's
annoying.
because Vrabel comes from
Very
the fortune
annoying.
tree, whereby they know situations. Because Mike Vrabel will take 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. Before you know it, they are neck and neck with you, and you're like, they haven't scored a lot of touchdowns, but those 3 points eventually do add up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's his name? Brandon Staley. I believe we all know he's on the hot seat anyway, because a lot of people are seeing that he's sort of squandering the talent that he has on the team. Like this team has always been notoriously underachieving or underperforming right when the lights are shining. So
I think
we'll see how
particularly,
things pan out.
I think particularly as Keenan Allen isn't getting any younger,
Yep.
his window is closing in terms of like how the team is. Like, so
Oh, also the Chargers didn't run a ball great in this game, despite them limiting Derrick Henry. The
they
Titans
couldn't run the ball. Joshua Kelly was
Yeah.
just stymied the whole time.
exactly. So that's also one of the reasons why they kind of couldn't win this game, despite the passing dominance that
Because
they showed.
Eckler wasn't there.
Yeah, it's because they seriously missed a running threat in this game because they just couldn't get the run game going. And whenever you can't do that, it kind of makes it a bit easier on the defense. They start cheating a little bit, in terms of like passing and in terms of the defensive depth in coverage.
But defensively, yeah, sorry, Will?
Oh no, I was just gonna say Ryan Tannehill obviously is their starter, but Malik Willis.
Malik Willis is currently, I don't
Still on the roster?
know. Willis is still there. Levis is obviously
The
Paul
been.
Levis is there, man. It's crazy.
It's a bit of a poop shoot
Yeah.
situation when it comes to the quarterbacks in Tennessee. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals. So we talked a little bit about Joe Burrow's injury before. They can't get the passing game working at all, though. Like, they can't get Jamar open. When you have Jamar Chase, such a brilliant wide receiver, and you can't get him open. Like,
Yep.
ever.
I mean, I do wonder, like, if he. I mean, it's weird because the reason why I say that is because a year ago he was quite his usual dominant self, and it doesn't matter which cornerback was on him, he could get open. So I don't know whether it's a case of
Is this his third year?
but I think it's his second.
Second
Probably
year.
his third. His third. I think
third,
it's his third.
Yeah, it can't be a second.
Because I don't know if what do you call it? If the issue is Joe Burrow or the issue is Chase.
I think it's more Burrow, in my opinion, but
because I'm just thinking it's more Burrow in terms of like he's not fully healthy, so he's not playing at his usual absolute best. He's trying to play as well as he can, but I don't think he's fully healthy from his injury that he has aggravated recently. And in that space, it's kind of like the connection between them hasn't quite been there. But then also, when I watch Joe Burrow play, Joe Burrow is like a late in the play type of quarterback, as in like he will hang in the pocket and at the last minute release the ball, and Jamar Chase knows he's gonna come, and Jamar Chase will normally win it on a 50-50 ball because it's how do I say it? It's kind of like Jamar Chase don't win the route early. The Bengals receivers tend to win most of their routes late during the play.
Mm-hmm.
So when they win late, it's almost like a cornerback feels like I've got it locked up. No, you haven't, because the ball is still gonna come. They haven't had those type of balls yet because
and they haven't been aiming for him deep. Like particularly that's what they've. Jamas actually said to the press this week. Like they're probably gonna try and aim for some deeper throws because you can't just dink and dunk all the time. If based upon how the quarterback is injured now, obviously with the calf injury, we don't know how this is
I mean,
going to
is
really
it his
impact
right
it.
calf?
It's I don't know exactly which one it is.
I'm guessing it's a right calf because with quarterbacks that are right-handed, you push off your right foot. So I don't know if he's not, because he's not fully healthy, he can't really throw that deep yet.
Yeah.
Until he gets
Yeah,
really
it's his
healthy,
right
and then he
calf.
can.
Yep, right calf.
Yeah,
I
so
just
he
had that
push
here.
up on it. So
I think the cat's
that's
out of the bag. As far as, I mean, this is like a divisional game as well. So defenders on the opposite team are going to be playing these guys 2 times every year. They did it last year as well, if it's the same personnel, and they kind of have a respect for Jamal, so they've worked out things they can do to sort of try and slow him down. So it's not, I mean, you'd expect if you get two cracks at the whip, you're going to work out how to perhaps neutralize him to some degree. So if this was like an outside of the division game, then that would be more impressive. But these guys game plan for him, and they just did a really good job.
All right. Now the Minnesota Vikings, another team we didn't expect them to be 0-2. And they have no running game. They cannot
That's a
run the
shame,
ball.
isn't it? That's a shame, isn't it?
They let Dalvin Cook go. Mattison had, and
why they even do that?
now the passing game is working, but their big problem is turnovers. Through 2 weeks, they have 7. They fumbled the ball 4 times this week.
I mean, that's true, but then, because the offense is so one-sided, there's not balance because the running game is not consistent, is not as good in the early part of this season because of that, sometimes if like the Eagles play them on Thursday night, if I'm up early, I can give you all the yards that you want. You could throw 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, but I'm still winning the game because I've got a better balanced offense than you do.
I think in particular, the turnovers from the Vikings could, like, if they don't get the lid on the situation, this will single-handedly completely ruin their season. Because
Yeah, that's true.
you can't constantly give the opposition teams free drives effectively to put points in them.
Especially when it's my Eagles.
And also I have a question, which is like this. I don't know who can provide me some answers here. Justin Jefferson, in the early part of the season, he's got his yardage, right? But I always have issue with teams that, where's his touchdowns? If you're giving me all these yards, why am I not getting touches in the end zone? I get frustrated when I see talented receivers like this. Like the Falcons did it with Julio throughout much of his career with the Falcons. He only had double-digit touchdowns once. The rest, he just seems to get lots of yards and no touchdowns. And I'm like, why is Julio not getting touchdowns?
It doesn't help that Justin Jefferson fumbled the ball through the end zone.
But
in this game.
Still, yes, I made an error because he was trying to score, so that happened.
He's trying to score. He took the risk. But when you've got a target like TJ Hawkinson in the red zone, it's gonna he's so difficult to when that field gets short. It's so difficult to cover somebody like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that Kirk Cousins threw 4 touchdowns in this game, right? 2 went to DJ Hawkinson, 1 went to Addison, the other 1 went to KJ Osborne. Now those 2 guys, I'm sorry, but yes.
But Addison was the long bomb.
Yeah, it was the long ball. But KJ Osborne seems to be getting the touchdown targets, and if that's why Justin Jefferson sometimes gets frustrated because I've seen him get open in the end zone and Kirk doesn't go to him in the end zone.
I know.
That's why he's always pissed off with Kirk Cousins. Because it's like,
do you know why
you would give me all the yardage in between the lines, but when we get to the end zone, you don't look for me like, bro, I need to score.
the mini theory I have on this is they pay so much attention to Justin Jefferson that KJ Osborne gets lost in the wash, right?
True. Because last week he was wide open for that touchdown.
Like he had the freedom of the stadium for that one. So that's how I see that, and let's see if JJ gets more touchdowns in the coming weeks, because the one thing is the Vikings need to stop shooting themselves in the foot. That is the key, and that segues into my next little segment, which is the entirety of the NFC North lost this week. Now, we've talked about the Minnesota Vikings, but Chicago Bears are utterly woeful. And this all predicates on the quarterback play, the play calling, because they don't seem to be able to... Like, last year, Justin Fields looked like he could move the ball, correct?
Yep.
He looked dynamic. He looked like they could run an offense with him to a point.
Yep.
This year, he's not even staring down open receivers. He's staring down receivers who are covered, throwing interceptions, week one. He's not even looking at completely open receivers. There's an example in this game where if you look at him going through his reads, he is just missing the mark. He's not finding the open receiver and then taking a sack on the play. And then the play calling, where we have the instance of them running the same play, halfback screen, 3 plays in a row.
3 plays. Same formation.
Identical. 3 times in a row.
Literally.
Like, what are they doing? It ended up in a pick 6.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of pundits saying it seems like Chicago don't have an identity on the offensive side of the ball, and their defense isn't really playing that good either, which is really bad, especially if you have a defensive head coach in an offensive coach league. But yeah, like I said, it seems as though every week the offense is trying something different. They're experimenting. Now's not the time to experiment. You should have an identity. You should know what you want to do. Do you want to play stout defense and run the ball? High percentage throws, win the game, protect the football. No, some games he's throwing it deep, long developing plays, and then taking sacks when he doesn't have to. Other games he's told, hey, you need to be the third running back. Run the ball when you need to, So it's all over the place right now. If you're Chicago, the curse continues. I think what was the interesting stat? Like, they have yet to have a quarterback go for I'm not sure how many yards or throw for how many yards throughout their whole career there.
250, something like that.
Like if you look at,
it's terrible.
So who do you think the Chicago Bears passing leader is all time?
Probably Jay Cutler.
And it's not even close. Jay Cutler.
Oh,
yeah.
23,000 yards, right? 61% completion percentage. Quarterback rating of 85. Nothing to write home about.
That's crazy.
Mitch Trubisky is 5th all time.
Jesus.
For the Chicago Bears. Are they incapable? Are they incapable? Are the Chicago Bears incapable of utilizing a quarterback?
A lot of people say they're stuck in the past. They're trying to relive the past years, focusing on defense, which isn't bad, But if you get a defensive head coach, you've got to have a good defense.
Franchise though, historically they've been known for defense and strong running games. Chicago Bears don't have a history of having great quarterbacks, basically, and it's kind of they're trying to correct that.
Not even
ever.
One.
They're a storied franchise which is predicated on great defensive players. Like the '85 Bears is known for their defense in the running game, and that's what propelled that team. into
Mhm.
being a historic team in NFL history. But like the situation with Justin Fields is this, and I feel like his career might end up going the way of Geno Smith, which is he might end up being a backup for a while, and then when he gets his
Man,
chance after years of developing,
no,
and then
But do you think he's got the patience to stick around
you
for
know,
10 years?
nah.
Gino did, so he might do, but no, but hear me out. One second, guys. Let me wrap this up quickly. I think we are finding now that all the offensive coordinators under Aaron Rodgers, like who's the guy that went to the Broncos
Well,
last
Luke,
year? What's
Hackett.
his name?
Nathaniel
Nathaniel
Hackett.
Hackett, Lugetzi, they lived off Aaron Rodgers' name because they have left Rodgers and we haven't seen anything they've done.
Although, let's see, it's difficult now with Hackett obviously being with the Jets now, and he's got Zach, who's not gonna
Necessarily do
right.
much.
Yeah,
Not,
but okay. So when he first left
oh,
Rodgers for the Broncos, he didn't do anything. So
yeah, but
that
then
was
Russ
already
did
a
look
bad thing.
atrocious as well.
Yeah, but if you're a quarterback guru, you find ways to get that quarterback and help
To
them
be
along.
better.
You prove your merit. We all know that you were living off Rodgers' name because Rodgers was great on his own, kind of. Not kind of. He was great on his own
Was
because he
great.
understood the game and he knows how to play at a higher level. Luke Getsy is not getting that reputation. And even when I was checking the Bears forums on Reddit, they already want him to be replaced. Like the Bears fans are suggesting different offensive coordinators to come and replace this guy because, like you just highlighted it right there, Jillian, earlier part of this discussion by saying that running the same 3 plays, you didn't change the formation, you didn't change nothing, and expecting to succeed over and over again is madness in this modern game of the
Against
NFL.
Shaq Barrett
And then the
and
last,
this Tampa Bay defense.
yes, and the defense, the first 2 games that they've played, both defenses, the Packers and the Bucks, have called out the best offense. They said they knew what they were gonna run before they even run it. So if those are the reports coming from the defensive players, it shows that your offensive coordinator is not up to the level or up to the grade because your play calling shouldn't be getting called out by the defense before it even gets called. That means there's something seriously wrong with the offense.
These are
And when I look at the
predictable.
Bears schedule, it doesn't look like it's gonna get any better because when you think about it, now they've got the Chiefs, they've got the Broncos, Commanders, Vikings. They're looking at 0-6 before they play the Raiders, which they might be able to win that, but it's looking like a long road ahead for them. I can't find any wins in their
Telling
next
you.
4 games.
Heads will
And
roll
right now,
mid-season. Heads will roll
I just feel
mid-season.
like,
all right. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna interject.
go ahead.
How bad would it be if Caleb Williams ended up on the Bears next year?
Don't need a new head coach for him. They can't roll with Eberflus.
They're not
like
going with
was been
Eberflus.
saying.
If they
Because-
lose 3 of the next 4 games,
Well, no,
They
they're
are
not
losing,
firing him.
they're losing the next 4 games.
They're not firing him this early in the season. That's not going to happen because there's
That's
no
not their
expectations.
MO.
No,
that's
they're
not what the
they're
Bears
not.
do. They won't. But he'll be gone by the end of the year, though.
Yeah, but okay. So here's the thing, though. The Caleb Williams sweepstake now is looking like it might take a different turn because of how bad the Bears are right now. And if nothing changes and the Bears ends up with the number 1 overall pick, they'll draft Caleb Williams. They're not gonna stick with Justin Fields again. Now, for Caleb Williams to succeed as a Bear depends on who his offensive head coach is going to be and the system that's going to be in place. That is so important.
Yep.
It is most definitely.
Plus,
So,
Caleb Williams' dad has come out and said they might not necessarily go to the team with the first. They might pull an Eli Manning. That's what his dad's been saying, basically.
because I wouldn't want to go and play for the Bears considering their franchise's history of being incapable of using a quarterback properly. All right, Green Bay fell to Atlanta. We covered Atlanta significantly, but in this game we had probably one of the funniest plays of a long time. Jordan Love and his attempt, or lack thereof attempt, at the QB sneak, where he ends up just running into the butt of the center and making him fall over. It's not quite Mark Sanchez, but it was goddamn hilarious. I think Green Bay are going to be okay because they're going to have Christian Watson come back. Once Christian Watson come back, when Aaron Jones comes back from his injury on an offensive side of the ball, they're going to be good. But I don't think AJ Dillon is playing that well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think. Well, I think the Bears will find a way to bounce back. But I mean the Packers will find a way to bounce back. But I think you need to understand that this game against the Falcons, it was a bit of a game of margins. They didn't play well. The Packers didn't. But in a sense, they've got a two-back system. They've got Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. So if AJ Dillon didn't play well,
and Aaron Jones wasn't fit.
Exactly for this game. But if Aaron Jones comes back, I think right now their offense runs majorly off Aaron Jones, as illustrated when they play the Bears. Yes, the Bears are horrible, but Aaron Jones was kind of like the key to their offense. Basically, once they get him going, it opens up a lot of things for Jordan Love. And actually, when I look at Jordan Love play, I might add this. He seems to throw the ball similar to how Rodgers throws. I think he's learned and altered his throwing motion to kind of try and mimic Aaron Rodgers in a way. I've started noticing that.
But if you have a fast release in this league, you normally we've seen with Tua. Like in the game against the Patriots, they tried to blitz him, and the ball's out.
Yeah,
like he's just slung it, and it's already gone, and like there's not a lot you can do. So I'm not particularly worried about the Packers. It's a loss that they probably shouldn't have lost. A game that they probably shouldn't have lost. But again, another team that lost, but it was against a team where the opposing offense kind of got it going. Detroit Lions lost in this one. Devin Montgomery actually looks really good in this game. But then he came out of the game with a thigh bruise and then didn't go back in. Amon-Ra, they kept a lid on him for the majority of the time. The Seahawks did, but he still managed 102 yards receiving. I think when it's a shootout game, it can not fall your way sometimes. And the Detroit Lions are going to play hard. I don't have an issue with them at the moment. They're going to win more games and probably not. So, any thoughts on particularly how you think that they may kind of fare, even though they lost this week?
Yeah, no, I think they'll continue to build. But that being said, I think the loss of Chauncey Gardner on the tail end is obviously going to hurt them going forward. So that's going to just make things a little bit harder. I think they're going to have to be really good on offense because, like I said, with Chauncey Gardner there, you can probably keep it at like maybe a 25-point game. But without him there, some teams are going to be able to sort of move the ball down the field. Going back to this matchup with Seattle, I'd say I think Seattle obviously played well, but it's good that they were able to get a win here, because if not, last season could have looked like, maybe it was a bit of a dream. Geno Smith was clock struck midnight, and he's gone back to being good old Geno Smith of old. But they needed a game like this to sort of show that they can hang, they can compete, and they played well.
Especially
yeah,
especially against a team that beat the Chiefs the week before.
Yep. Exactly. They were able to move the ball on the ground. Geno Smith was able to move the ball through the air, and he was able to sprinkle it around. DK got his receptions. Tyler got his receptions. Jackson Smith, the rookie, he started getting in that rotation as well. So it's good to see. It's good to see. Hopefully the Seahawks continue this trend.
All right. Moving on to a little segment now, which is who is the best defense in the league after 2 weeks? Is it actually the Cowboys? Is it another defense because Or is it 49ers? Or do the Steelers even sneak in? Because they showed yesterday that they can single-handedly win a game.
Mm.
What are you guys' thoughts? I'm going to ask.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna say the Cowboys. Only because of the question you said. Who is the best defense this moment in time? You know what I mean? Over 2 games in terms of what we've seen, and the only reason I'm saying this is their sheer ferocity. Like they are so aggressive, so explosive on defense. We're talking all 3 levels. You know, Stephon Gilmore as an addition has changed life over there because now they've got 2 real ball hawk corners that can contain outside weapons, and obviously you have the inside, you have the pass rush coming from Micah, who right now looks unstoppable. Like he's so hard to block, so fast. If you play Dallas, like your offensive line is gonna end up in like an ice bath at the end of the game. Like they have to. It's just one massive punch up, you know. So I'm gonna go with that. But that being said, the Steelers do get a vote of confidence here because it seems as though, just like you said, Dilly, they're gonna have to keep this team afloat the whole season. So they're gonna have to play lights out.
If you look at the Steelers, the other side of the ball, it doesn't look good.
Nah,
it really doesn't.
desired.
So they really need that, in true Steeler fashion, that Steeler defense to really like pull through and show how great they are. 49ers this week, I would say the Rams were able to move the ball on them, and my baller of the week, I'll talk about him a little bit later on, but he faced the 49ers this week, so I think you are capable of moving the ball against this team if you have a balanced offense. If you don't have a balanced offense, that 49ers D is going to eat.
Yeah, that's true. But for now, sometimes the best defense is still the Cowboys for now. And I think Stephon Gilmore, like you said, I've changed it. But 49ers, over the first 2 weeks, apart from the Steelers game, I'm just trying to think. This is just an intriguing question. Do you think they're gonna end up missing DeMeco Ryans because he was a very good defensive coordinator for them and he brought a lot of intensity to the defense?
From a defensive point of view, that could have an impact. And I don't think that's going to have an impact now. I think that could have an impact, particularly when it comes towards playoff time.
You'd like to think that, you know, DeMeco Ryans, I mean, they obviously promote from internal. So the next position coach that took over from DeMeco understands the defense and is using elements of that defense and what he's choosing to build. If not, he's just inheriting it completely. You know, so you'd like to think that they're able to sort of regain some of their form from last season.
All right, and now we will get on to our weekly, well, I'm going to call it almost like a weekly segment, which is Rookie Quarterback Watch. So we will now talk about how we see the rookie quarterbacks, where we think they are with their progressions in terms of how they're performing over the last week and how their kind of seasonal kind of trajectory is going. Now, I'm going to talk about my guy, Anthony Richardson. For 2 drives, he looked invincible. The run game with Zach Moss seemed to have got working. His passing game seems to be accurate. He seems to be the most accurate out of the quarterbacks, the rookie quarterbacks that have come out of this draft. But it all got cut short because on his second touchdown run, instead of sprinting to the end zone, because he had a clear line, he could have just sprinted and not been touched. But he slowed down and tried to sprint past, to almost like ego challenge the defender. The defender put a hit on him. And what happened? He had helmet slap against the turf. Turf isn't fun to hit your head, like the back of your helmet against. Out for a concussion in a concussion protocol. You can't be taking on these hits.
And that comes with experience. Obviously he's young in the league. I think he's still learning what he can and can't do. But I'm sure the coaches will give him an earful there, saying, "Look, it doesn't matter that you feel okay after this. You're in concussion protocol. You're not going to be playing next week."
Well, no, he could be. He could be. Yeah,
he could be, but it's unlikely. He could be, but that could cost us a game. That could affect the outcome. It could completely change our season. And all you had to do really was just make a beeline for the end zone, slide, or just dive in. But instead, you're up.
No, you can't slide, because if you slide, you give yourself up. But the thing is, he could have made a beeline for the end zone, and he would have made it easily.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's all part of the learning process.
Well, basically, Anthony Richardson needs to learn, and he needs to stop trying to learn the hard way. Just last week, who told him to slide? Who gave him a very good advice last week?
And this was, so this wasn't like the lesson of sliding and no sliding, right? And taking hit, like this was, he got there to the end zone. He scored the touchdown, but he could have got there without getting hit.
It's all the same.
It's a mentality thing. It's a mentality thing. Protect yourself at all times. Just like Josh Allen doesn't.
You might be exactly. You got to protect yourself in this league, right? I mean, you might be. There's a reason why certain quarterbacks are 6'5", 235 and stuff, and they played a long time in the league because they took care of themselves. I.e. Peyton Manning. Yes, he didn't have the athletic gifts that Richardson have, but at the same time, protected himself. Donovan McNabb, he played in the league for a long time because he wasn't gonna take any unnecessary hits, and things like that. So it's a case of he needs to start learning very fast, because he's actually out in terms of, if we are talking about
the rookies,
best rookie quarterback so far, he has been more impressive than the two that went above him. And he needs to continue that trajectory going forward, because Shane Steichen has done a wonderful job of building the offense around his skill set, asking him to do certain things that are within his remit, designing game plans, making reads comfortable for him to be able to deliver the ball and be accurate with it, and also taking care of his athletic gifts.
Everything Chicago's not doing.
One thing I'll ask you. Say, for example, Jonathan Taylor comes into the team, right? Like, he just comes back and plays, right? Week 5. Yeah. This running attack, Anthony Richardson was scrambling and QB runs, Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. That's one of the nastiest running attacks in the league.
Yeah, you guys are going to run the RPO, you just got to hope that Anthony works out. Like I said, pick your battles. We'll learn to run out of bounds when you need to. There's no need to take the hit, It doesn't matter how big and strong you are. You'll get worn down, So if he does that, and I think Steichen's experienced that with Jalen Hurts as well, so he understands, and you guys are in for a treat. RPOs all over the place. And what you defend, you can't take any of these guys.
But what I saw was when Minshew came in, the offense ran. The offense still worked.
Yep.
So that's a little plus in my book, because they're like, we were still able to move the ball. Okay, it's the Texans. Still got a lot of holes in their team. It's going to be a little bit different if we've got Minshew starting next week, because
I think you'll be surprised. I mean, this isn't me sort of saying Gardner Minshew, blah blah blah. All I'm saying is that he understands the offense. There's a reason why he came to the Colts. Obviously, Stryken said, "Hey, look, you know the offense. You can come in. You can mentor the young QB." And like I said, like if there's ever a time where I need you to play, you're going to be ready to go. You know, Minshew is still auditioning for some kind of a starting job in the league. So, although I don't think there's anything open right now.
I mean, if it was up to you, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna put this out there. Like, if Hurts didn't really prove himself last year, you would have won Minshew.
Yeah,
Your man crashed on Minshew.
Hey,
is
listen, the
amazing.
year he came
I've never
out,
seen that before.
the year he came out, Kyler Murray's draft to this very day, that draft class, he is the second best quarterback in that draft class after Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I agree.
Let that sink in. Like he's not
So do you think he would do a better job on the Giants than Danny Dimes?
Oh yes, absolutely. Just because he's not 6'4".
No.
Just because he's not.
No, the reason I say no. No, the reason I'll say no. Because it doesn't matter who they put behind center. Behind that offensive line, nobody's gonna be good.
Yeah.
But Gardner Minshew has thrived in every other field. If it wasn't for Sunshine being available in the draft, I don't think they would have taken a guy, because the Jags when Minshew had the reins, they hadn't been that good, well that consistent for a very long time, and he was a rookie. So obviously, Sunshine, you can't pass up on him. So, but that's all.
Yeah, but they sort of tanked for Sunshine, because if they played Minshew, they would have gotten a one-overall pick.
Yeah,
correct. All right.
He did well.
CJ Stroud, first half struggled, second half played a lot better when he was chasing the game. Obviously, the defense is going to act a little bit different, and the Colts from the offensive side of the ball are obviously going to play the game a little bit different, because they're just trying to manage the game until the end. But from what the conversations I'm hearing, it's a better trajectory. Like, he played a little bit better. Now, whether or not that's going to be it's still good enough, I still don't know. The thing is, the Texans are still bad as a team. So
they are.
I can't really judge them. I can't judge him.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. I mean, he played better in the second half, and you would hope that from how he played in the second half, it can be sort of like a booster going into their next game, which unfortunately is against Sunshine, which I don't think they're going to win that one. So, and I think their schedule gets tough. They've got a tough schedule every week. I'm not gonna hide it. I'm rooting for whichever team plays the Houston Texans. Let them be competitive. But I give them a chance to win 1 or 2 games this season, at best. Because of the roster, I think if they get some of their injured offensive linemen back, in mid-season, could be a resurgence. But then if they're gonna surge and win a couple of games, I put that towards the latter part of the season, because rookie quarterbacks typically tend to get better towards the end of the season, where you see some improvements in how their performance goes leaps and bounds. So we'll see how the games go. But I mean, he's playing better. Progressively, I'd say Richardson is 1 in terms of.
But I don't think it's even close, right?
Yeah.
Richardson is by far the most ready at the moment, and he looks like he's playing like the most accomplished. He just needs to sort out, don't take the hits. Then I would say CJ Stroud is just about pips Bryce Young, but there's not a lot between the two. Bryce Young, at the moment, has been poor.
Yeah.
At the moment, so far.
What's fascinating is this, 1 second, is that during the drafting process, people thought Bryce Young was more pro ready than the other two. But it's funny how it's turned out in the pros. even though Bryce Young technically has a better offensive line, because his tackles are good. They're two of the best young tackles.
Mhm.
The right tackle is really good, Taylor Morton, and Ike McQuan is a good young left tackle. So his offensive line is not really a big issue, but yet Richardson and CJ have looked better. I bet CJ, for instance, has a horrible offensive line, so we can't really judge CJ at the moment.
Yeah, no, obviously a lot of people have talked about this in the past, but when you go to a school like Ohio State and Alabama, you kind of have the best players around you, you know? So your receiving core that you had at Ohio State for CJ Stroud is better than the one you've got at Houston. You know, your offensive line is extremely good, and it almost overrides the other team you play. So you don't have to work as hard. Like, people are open all the time. You know, running lanes are open all the time. When you come to the NFL, that's not quite the same. And obviously, if you're Anthony Richardson, you come from Florida. Don't get me wrong, Florida have good players as well, but you've had to work a little bit harder. You know, you like it's not things aren't always open, and I think that does play a role. Like, I always take a guy that's played in like a small school and played really well. Like, if you come from like a small school, um, for example, if we look at what Colorado is doing, so for example, if he goes and plays Oregon and UFC, if Shedeur Sanders has an amazing game, they still lose, but he has an amazing game. That says a lot because with less talent, he's still able to produce, which means he's relying on his ability as a QB to place the ball, see how routes are progressing. He's not just knowing if I throw this ball, I've got Chris Olave, who's just going to outrun the defender. He might even outrun my pass. You know, that's not going to happen anymore. So I, I think that
But
plays a role in it. I really think that does. Because if you
it
think
does.
about it, Tua is probably the only one that's sort of been able to sort of rise above this. But even that
No,
took
but
AJ
Nick,
McCarron when he came out. Matt Jones is doing well. You know,
like
Matt
Tua
Jones
was
is all
horrible
right.
his rookie year. We're talking
He
about
was
rookie
horrible.
year in particular, right?
Yeah.
Tua was horrible in his rookie year, right? Now when I go by that analogy, right, I just pull up Callum Murray's rookie year game log, right?
Mm,
So first game against Detroit, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Second game against Baltimore, 349 yards, no touchdowns. Um, uh, then against Carolina, 173 yards, so that was a bad performance, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. By week 6 against Atlanta Falcons, Kyler was 340, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs. So as the season progressed, there are certain quarterbacks that, regardless, you want to
mm,
see the progress. So these rookie quarterbacks that come from the Power 5 programs, right? When they are talented during your rookie year, they're gonna have those special games, right? Kyler had week 6 against Atlanta Falcons, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs. Week 10 against Tampa Bay, he had 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. And then the last game of the season against the Rams, 325 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. So you have to see those sort of progression throughout the year. That marquee games that we need to see in the rookie to know that this guy can play and this
mm.
guy can ball. So there's some quarterbacks that have been able to do that in their rookie years. So now let's see if we can see out of Bryce, out of what you call it, out of CJ.
So,
And I think Antonio, I think
mhm.
Richardson is on the verge of having one of those marquee games. I think he'll be the first to do it.
Yeah. He's getting better
So
every week. That's what you want to see, really, in the end of the day. You want to see improvement week to week.
now they've got the Seahawks and the Vikings. Vikings is an opportunity because you seem to be able to. People seem to be able to put the points up on them. So let's see if. But then let's see if they can actually manage to get it done. Obviously, rookie quarterbacks in their home debut is also a whole different thing as well. Not many have had extremely good games. Baller of the week. Who is your baller of the week, Will?
Yep. So I'm actually going to TJ. Only because it's amazing to see him back. And I think he scored a touchdown.
Yeah,
well.
he a scoop and
Yep,
score.
scoop and score. So I think just the not necessarily the on the field work, because we all know that's amazing, but the effect that he has on his team, his defense, it's like you're playing a completely different team with him live in the lineup, you know. And that's my main reason why, because I think he's galvanized the Steelers, you know, and he's instantly making an impact. You know, it's as though he never left. TJ has come back and is doing TJ things. Literally his first game back. You know, he hasn't missed a beat.
Yeah, well,
You know,
two games in, and he's giving Micah Parsons a run for his money for Defensive Player of the Year already. Cowboys fans will say Micah is by far clear number one, best defensive player at the moment.
Best player in the NFL, if you ask some of them.
But TJ Watt is absolutely and utterly incredible, and he showed it this week. My baller of the week is a rookie. And this rookie now has the NFL record for the number of receptions in the first 2 weeks of his career. Puka Nacua. 15 receptions for 147 yards. He was targeted 20 times in this game. When you are a rookie and you are targeted 20 times in your second game in your career, that says a lot about the trust that a veteran quarterback in Matt Stafford has in you, your ability to run routes, your ability to get open. A lot of it was short routes, but you've still got to run them well, and you've got to catch the ball. He's doing it all. He's doing exactly what is asked for him. And to be honest, he's a hallmark of how the Rams are playing this season, because they are a young team looking like they are playing hard and fast. They're trying hard. And so, yeah, Puka Nacua, my baller of the week, because that performance, and with the NFL record to go with it, that's my little piece. Peter, who's your baller of the week?
BJ Robinson. He won the Falcons the game this weekend. And he's starting to show why he's a special back. And want to join the upper echelons. He had an impressive game. Great numbers in terms of rushing and his ability. I think the way he played was more impressive than even the numbers he put up, because there was one sequence whereby the way he was cutting and juking and
that play of his, it's not quite a play of the week because there have been some brilliant ones this week, but I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. It's like Jude Stick on Madden, right? It's like Jude Stick on Madden,
yeah, just weaving through. And
and it shows like instinct. And it shows the talent level and the vision and his ability to move in tight space is absolutely, to borrow a bit of a football in terms of football in this country's term. When elite footballers can move in tight spaces, he can do that as a running back. Like, his ability to move and navigate out tight spaces is very, very impressive. And I think he's gonna be a key piece for the Falcons as they move forward. And if they are to win this division, he's a key part of it.
All right, there we have it. Baller of the week. And now we will move on to the play of the week. Will, first time for you.
I had.
Who was your play of the week?
Yeah, no, I had two actually. One was Chris Olave, but I'm not even a Patriots fan, but I'm gonna highlight Christian Gonzalez, who is not related to Tony Gonzalez. Everyone is saying they look alike. They are not related to. They're not related to one another. But it's rare for the Patriots to get a player through the draft that's going to be a hallmark of their franchise, and it's been like that for a while. Like, they've whiffed on like a lot of picks in the past half decade.
Rare.
What, first rounder?
No, I'm saying in terms of you draft someone. Yeah.
The reason why I say it's not rare,
he can become a role player. He can be a role player. But I'm saying he becomes
the reason why I say it's not rare.
Yeah.
The reason why I say it's not rare is that when it comes to defensive backs, go check Bill Belichick's record. He knows how to draft cornerbacks and safety.
But they don't tend to draft them in the first round because they never used to have a first round drop because they always trade out of it. correct?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
it's just
when
good
it
to
comes
see.
to cornerbacks, he is good, and that is my play of the week too. Because like I said at the beginning, I'm not moving from it,
Yeah.
and I'm even more convinced he will win Defensive Rookie of the Year unless Jalen
Carter.
Jalen Carter.
Yeah, Jalen Carter.
They're the two front runners, but it depends on numbers when it comes to it. And I feel like Gonzalez might edge it because of the amount of interceptions he might get this year. But so far, he's really proven to be like the second rookie that is playing out of their mind as a rookie, like Sauce did last year.
Playing to the level that you'd expect from a vet, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
He's going to be on that team for a very long time. We're talking 13 years plus. He's going to be a Patriot because Bill Belichick is just going to take him in and he's saying, "You're my guy." That's it.
Now, I can't believe I'm going to do this. My play of the week also is by the New England Patriots. But it's not an offensive play, and it's not a defensive play.
Oh.
It's a special teams play. The blocked field goal.
Oh, that was good. The running stop. Oh, yeah. I've never seen that in the NFL.
Yeah. Everyone was saying that they had not seen somebody do like that. Like the style that he did, coming from so wide, then running parallel to the line of scrimmage, and then effectively, if the ball's not snapped, he's just going to run inside, right? So he's not going to... And if the ball is snapped, he just runs. And the jump that he got was... And it affected the kicker on the next kick. Because he missed it wide left.
Yeah.
Because he realised that this guy's coming again.
Yeah.
So he kind of pushed it a little bit left.
It speeds everything. Yep. Speeds everything up.
The funny thing is, and that's what we were saying earlier. The Patriots find a way to find these players that impact games that I didn't even know about this player until that play. And I wonder, has he done that in practice before, or he just went off instinct?
I think no. They've been working on that. They've definitely they've been working on that. Yeah.
This is typical Bill Belichick. So he will bend the rules. Like if he doesn't see legislation that says you can't do it, he's gonna do it. And if you make a rule change afterwards,
I don't see a reason why they can't do that. That's just normal.
There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that plan. And you're right, it was a special play because the way he did it, nobody's ever done it like that before.
Yeah, I watched the replays so many times just to see what the outside guard would do.
Do you know what I want to see?
He was completely. He was like
he didn't know what to do.
He literally didn't know what to do. So he started marking his guy, and then he realizes, hold on a second, this guy here is gonna run past me. So then you saw him try and extend one hand, and it just looked like almost like such a half-ass, like, let me just put my hand out to like, hey, can you
push him out of the way?
Can you not do
this?
By then he'd already passed him. But yeah, no, it's tough because now that Bill Belichick has done this as a special teams coordinator, you have to respect it now. So this affects the whole dynamic of how you line up. If you're playing the Patriots, like you have to prepare for this. Not only the fake, but now you have to worry about people coming from the edge of the field, the hash marks, and then running in. So it Bill Belichick is always like this. So it's always good to see.
Are the Cardinals tanking competitively? Peter, what is your team doing? Because
I don't know. I in a confused state right now because I don't know whether we are tanking competitively or we are trying to win it. Because over our last two matches, we've played as well as you can play without a talented roster and still lose. But then in a way, it's kind of like it's not fitting the national media narrative because everyone expected the Cardinals to be very bad, but they didn't expect us to be this competitive in losing. They expected us to be kind of like horrible teams will blow us out for majority of our games, and indications from the first two games indicates that we are playing hard, and if any team out there does not play their best, you could get beat by the Cardinals very easily.
Mm.
The way it's going,
I-
even with a Baker not playing, with Kyler Murray not back yet, but I think what it gives us, and the hope that it gives to someone like Kyler Murray, is that seeing the team play hard gives you hope that if I come back and if I can quickly get back into form, we might win a couple of games this year because the teammates that we have, they might not be the most talented, but the effort is there, and that's what I love about it so far, even if it looks like it's competitively tanking.
Why is Buddha not playing? Is he injured or is he?
Yeah, hamstring.
Okay.
So they put him on injured
Yeah, because
reserve till October.
you've almost got to study what the team's doing. Like when you have to, like when you're trying to dissect a professional tank, you've got to look at different angles. You've got to say, cool, are there random players who have no real reason to not be starting? Are they sitting out? You know,
It doesn't look like any of that's happening,
it
to be
doesn't look
honest.
like that. It doesn't look
but
like
they're still
that's
losing
happening.
games. So
They're still losing, yeah.
let's see what happens when Kyler actually returns. Week 3 previews now. And the first game that we're going to talk about. So 2-0-2 records are going to be lost. So somebody's going to win this game, or they're going to go 0-2-1. LA Chargers against the Minnesota Vikings. Somebody has to win.
Something's got to give.
Something has
Absolutely.
got to give. All right.
Someone's gonna lose.
What do we think the keys to this game are? Because assuming Eckler is back, does this predicate on the Vikings not coughing up the ball all the time?
So is for the Vikings is the turnovers, but for me the key to the game is the running game. Which team will have a better running performance? Will it be the Chargers or the Vikings? Because both teams over the first 2 weeks they've run the ball somewhat, especially last week. They both did not run the football very well. The Vikings did with Alex Matheson. The Chargers, they couldn't run the ball without Austin Eckler. He's back this week, so it's a case of who can find more success in the run game. And the biggest key for me with the Chargers is run game and also game state or game management from who's the head coach again, Mr. Taylor. I forgot his first name. But it's a case of can you manage the game when you guys are ahead? Because at some point the Chargers will be ahead, but it's a case of can they manage and close it out? Because that's has seemed to be their issue the first 2 games, the way I see it.
Can you imagine if the Chargers go 0-3?
Oh boy.
The narratives.
Yep. That's an angry fan base.
Even though the fan base is kind of split because obviously locale LA is a little bit of a weird town when it comes to
Yeah.
how the
They'll
fans
leave you
are
if
like.
you start losing.
We saw it. We saw the LA Rams at home last week. Well, they're actually away from home in their own stadium because that was basically 80% 49ers fans. Speaking of the Rams, they travel to Cincinnati to play the Bengals on Monday Night Football. This is could the Rams go in and put the Bengals to 0-3?
I believe so, especially with Joe Burrow's aggravated calf, and we're not knowing the extent of the injury and how long he'll be out for. Even if when he
Or
plays this game,
even if he's going to be out, we don't know.
exactly. Even if he plays this game, I don't know if it's going to be 100% effective. Will he be able to push the ball deep like the receivers are sort of like requesting for? Because I think, like you said, Jamal Chase said, it seems like he was speaking for the whole group, them thinking that we're not playing our normal game of pushing the ball deep. We kind of want to take it a bit further, a little bit instead of the short passes. So would they be able to do that? The Rams seem to have found a system of playing without Cooper Cup being there, which is these new receivers that they're using. And I think it's
They're
not a lot
using
of deep
Tutu,
shots. It's a
and
lot of like
it's just
it's a
medium.
intermediate, and it's not
Yeah,
and then I think that because Sean McVay is such a good offensive coordinator that with a capable or a good a good to average offensive line, they can string together key drives to win games, especially if they can get a bit of movement in a run game. They're able to put together a performance, and I would be surprised if the Rams actually beat the Bengals in this game. Like, remember I said this is a pivotal game for Cincinnati for their season to get started. They have to kind of find a way to win the game.
Yep.
like you look at their schedule. So the Rams is probably surprising to us. It's a more difficult game. Then they travel to Tennessee. They play the Cardinals, which we finally expect them, and the Seahawks. Then they go into their bye and they come back and play the 49ers and the Bills.
It's just that Cincinnati's schedule.
Yeah, like up until week 9, they've not got it's not a kind schedule. Seahawks are capable of beating because you
Well,
don't
they
know
have a
which Seahawks
guaranteed
would.
win against the Cardinals, so at least they have
Exactly.
one win there.
And Titans, they should beat the Titans, but whether or not they will is a whole different thing. Let's see how Joe Burrow's got. And so, massive pivotal week when it comes to them because obviously they need to win this week. They can't really slip to 0-3 because the Ravens facing my Colts this week. And it's in Baltimore. It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I know you've got 2 electric quarterbacks. Run game as well. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
And like a bit of the keys to this game, I think, will be the run game. If the Colts manage to, if Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner manage to stymie that run game, that will be the foundation for the Colts win. They stop the Ravens from getting things going nicely because through the air, he's not been he's not been great, has he, Lamar?
No, he hasn't been great through the air. I think the offense is still trying to find their rhythm in terms of trying to reach a peak level type of performance, and he's still gelling with his receivers. I don't think they're completely 100% on the ball yet in terms of establishing the chemistry. I think they're still building as the season progresses. The chemistry of Andrews is there though. If the chance comes,
it always is there, and that's the thing. And they didn't have him week 1. So yeah, that's going to be. I think that's a key matchup this week. Another key matchup. So 2 matchups which you'd expect. So you'd expect the Bills to beat the Commanders, right?
Yep.
But the Commanders, with that defensive line, because that defensive line is mean. Chase Young is playing well. Darren Payne, Josh Sweat. Like, you look at these guys on that defensive, that is a mean defensive line. If they knock Josh Allen, keep knocking him out of the right yardage, Josh Allen proved he was okay last week.
Yep.
But he needs to just continue to stop hurdling players because he's tried it again this week.
No.
He needs to
Don't
stop.
get me started on that.
Okay, so the key to the Bills is this: they're starting to they seem to maybe slowly starting to find their running back for this offense and James Cook. So if he can find some success against this Washington defensive line, it might open things up for the Buffalo Bills. But they've got to try and trust James Cook early in the game, though.
They've got to trust him. The key for the Bills. Just
play smart football.
Play smart football. No turnovers, things like that. Because no arm punts. Because Brian
Yeah.
Robinson will come from the other side. Like the Commanders can move the ball. They're
Yeah.
not incapable of moving the ball. They have a diverse offense, so it's going to be. I think it's been a fun game, but I think the Bills will probably pit them, even though this is in FedEx Field. So it's going to be loud. The crowd seems to have returned there, so it's going to be a little bit louder. Falcons Lions. This is an interesting one.
That's the game that I want
Yeah.
to talk about because I think we're quickly gonna find out about those two teams in this game. As in, like, can the Lions bounce back and be on a trajectory of making the playoffs / winning their division? So this is one of the pivotal games in the NFC, which could end up becoming a tiebreaker scenario if, let's say, both teams don't win the division and it goes to who's got a better record. So it's a very intriguing matchup. Two teams sort of, although you expect the Lions to be a bit ahead in terms of their project and the talent that they've got on their team compared to the Falcons. So it's a very interesting game, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And
All right,
yeah,
I've got
very interesting.
I've got a question. I've got a scenario question, right? So let's say the Chiefs beat the Bears, which we all expect them to do. We're going to expect Chiefs get their third and short woes out because they're incapable of converting them at the moment. Let's say they wipe the floor of the Bears. Bears go 0-3. Let's say Chargers win this game against the Vikings that we were talking about earlier. Vikings go 0-3. This game becomes really important because the Packers, they are playing the Saints. Saints defense isn't going to be fun for the Packers to play against.
Yep.
Detroit could find themselves clear at the top at 2-1. Yeah, it's early season. They've got to get, especially at home, they've got to get this win and then, take it from there. Because, like, having that game advantage, especially over teams that aren't playing particularly well or are playing well but losing, you've got to take as much advantage as possible. But key to this game is how the Detroit Lions defense reacts to losing CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yep.
They're able
That's
to
gonna
stop
be huge.
them. They're able to stop Atlanta moving the ball down the field. I think the Lions will win this one.
True, and also how efficient Jamal Gibbs will be without David Montgomery.
I don't know if I don't think Montgomery will be out though. He had a bruise. He was just badly
Oh, it
bruised.
was a bruise?
It was a bruised thigh.
Oh, okay.
So he was like in a lot of pain. So they just kind of held him out. And
Okay, then I think he's gonna play. I thought he had like an injury the way they wrapped it up. So I thought it was
no. There was like a significant bruise. That's what they said. So I wouldn't expect him to miss much time, if any. And finally, two teams who are 2-0. Is this finally where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of just succumb to your Eagles? Well, or do you think there's an upset on the cards here?
We've been having like a slow start the first two games of this season, and I don't think that's about to change against the Tampa Bay's their defense. So this really depends on how we come out the gate. Like if we can get to the teens, like 15 points, 18 points, 20 points by the end of the half, then yeah, we're in with a chance to do really well and really push away. But it's going to be a slugfest. This is not the defense my Eagles want to face. Because we're going to have to run the ball, which we can do, but we don't want to do that the whole game because we get very one-dimensional. And
then Vita Vea will just start eating people.
Exactly, yeah. So what we want to be able to do is move the ball down the field. If we can get off to like a really good start, then I think we can weather through. Because even though like don't get me wrong, they have good players on offense, but we have good players on defense. But the story here is more of our offense versus their defense.
I think that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
That's what
Well,
I'm
Peter,
that
you were
is-
saying.
Yeah.
Well, I said I agree, and for me the biggest key is how good your passing game is gonna be. Because one thing I know about Turbos, he's gonna stop the run.
Yep.
He's one of the best defensive coordinators at stopping the run, and Tampa will sell out to stop the run. But how good are you guys gonna be throwing the football?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to have to earn his pay this week. So this is really going to show if he's taking that next step as far as passing the ball. You're going to have to take what the defense will give you.
One last question. Miami Dolphins, if they go in and beat the Broncos and put the Broncos to 0-3, which they're playing at
Which is
home,
likely. Yeah.
which is likely, they're at home, but this is going to be a real test for Tua. From a defensive standpoint, I think this.
No.
It should be if the defense
Waddle's
plays
not
to their
gonna be in,
capabilities, but
Yeah, and Waddle's out, right?
Okay.
Waddle's a
reason why I
concussion.
say
No,
Unlikely,
we don't.
not
We don't.
confirmed.
We don't know.
But it's I think it's most likely he might have to sit this game.
The reason why I said no is because I have no faith in Vance Joseph's Broncos defense right now. That's why I said no, because Mike McDaniel is also one of the top offensive coordinators, and he must be licking his chops as to how he's gonna razzle dazzle this defense because he's seeing all.
Did
their
you see
packages
Mike
and things like
McDaniel
that.
this week after the cameraman tried to at the halftime and he just started sprinting down?
Exactly. So for me, it comes down to this: if the Broncos wants to avoid 0-3, it might become a shootout, but it's a shootout whereby they can't afford any mistakes on offense.
You can't have a shootout against this Miami Dolphins offense.
Oh, the Broncos can.
Have you seen how fast this Miami offense is?
It is, but that's what I'm saying, because your defense can't do much. So they're
You've
going to
got-
score a lot. They're going to give you the ball. So how good is Sean Payton and Russell going to be scoring on Miami's defense? That's the question.
If you look at their offense, right, they have on their team, you've got Tyreek, elite sprinter speed, right? Good
Yeah, with
sprinter speed,
excellent route running.
right? Raheem Mostert, former sprinter, 4.34 40. Devon Achane, who has the fastest 100 meter time out of all of them in college,
Yeah.
4.32. So their two running backs are lightning quick.
Lightning fast, yep.
And Jalen Waddle as well. Now, we don't know what Jalen Waddle's, if he's going to be out or whether he's going to be in, but four guys who are ultimately fast, that's scary to face. Because they're all different kinds of players, right? They're all completely different as well. They're different body types and the like. So that's the fun, and that's the fun that Mike McDaniels has actually in creating schemes for them.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, can the Broncos outscore Miami? I don't think they can. But that's the question, though, because I have no faith in the Broncos defense.
Under the tutelage of Vance Joseph.
Yes, under the tutelage of Vance Joseph, yeah.
All right. Well, there we have it. There's our little week